Good morning, children. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
We were discussing about the cell membrane or plasma membrane found in eukaryotic cells, and we also learned that through this plasma membrane is semi-permeable, and it helps in the exchange of materials, selected materials to pass through it. And now we are going to learn about different modes of transport across plasma membrane with and without expenditure of energy, how the molecules or substances are getting transported across the plasma membrane. So there are different ways by means of which substances are transported across the plasma membrane. As I told you, with the expenditure of energy and without the expenditure of energy, this can happen. Okay. So passive transport. First, we'll begin with passive transport. This is the movement of molecules across the membrane along the concentration gradient. So you have learned already that the transport usually takes place from a higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. If you take the case of water molecules will move from a region of its higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So that is known as movement along the concentration gradient. But when particles are moving from its lower concentration to its higher concentration, then you can say it is against the concentration gradient. So along the concentration gradient means movement of particles or substances from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration. Yes. If it is taking place against the concentration gradient, then you will call it as, or you will need energy and you will call it as movement against the concentration gradient. Who called me? I saw him. I thought let him wait there for some time. Why he couldn't join on time? I had seen him. 9:20 was the time, no? Maybe some friends might have messaged that please join. So today's situation is not that good. I know you people are very cooperative, very kind-hearted. Okay. Now coming back to a topic, movement of neutral molecules by simple diffusion. Diffusion means the movement of molecules, that also movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. In the case of, gas molecules, you have learned carbon dioxide and oxygen. It is transported, or in our body, diffusion of these gases will take place. And similarly, movement of neutral molecules. You know what are neutral molecules? Where the positive and negative charges are balanced. Neutral molecules, movement by means of simple diffusion is an example for passive transport. Once again, I will repeat, the movement of molecules across the membrane along the concentration gradient from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration without spending energy, without the expenditure of energy. So when it is taking place, when the transport is taking place along the concentration gradient, there is no need for utilizing energy. No ATP molecules need to be broken down. But when it is against the concentration gradient, there we will need energy. Osmosis. Osmosis also a type of diffusion. Here the movement of water molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration across a semi-permeable membrane, or else movement of water molecules across a semi-permeable membrane by diffusion. So for diffusion, a semi-permeable membrane is not necessary. But for osmosis, it can take place only across or only through a semi-permeable membrane. So osmosis is a diffusion taking place across a semi-permeable membrane. Now next is facilitated diffusion. So we learned what is meant by passive transport. So under passive transport, we discussed about osmosis also, diffusion, osmosis, then facilitated diffusion. So this also doesn't require energy. And what is facilitated diffusion? Here the polar molecules move across the membrane with the help of carrier proteins. So here you can see some carrier proteins are there. Simple diffusion. So let me take the pen. See here it is simple diffusion. So molecules are moving from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Whereas in facilitated diffusion means the diffusion is facilitated by something. So there are some carriers. So as you can see here, these are the carrier molecules or carrier proteins. So just like we are, suppose we want to cross cross a river, then we take the help of a boat. So with the help of the boat, or you enter into the boat and the boat will take you to the other side. So from this side, you want to go to the other side of the river. So you get inside a boat, and with the help of the boat, or by means of this boat, you will reach the other side of the river. And again, once you have reached over there, boat will again come back to the original position. It will come back to the first side, or from where you started the journey, it will come back there and to continue the process again. So similarly, here also some carrier proteins are there. They will help, or without expending energy, they will help in transporting the molecules. So here there is a carrier protein. So that is facilitated diffusion. Diffusion is facilitated by some carrier proteins. Once again, passive transport is a movement of molecules across the membrane along the concentration gradient. When I say along the concentration gradient, you have to understand that it is from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. But when it is taking place in the reverse direction, there will be a requirement of energy. And movement of neutral molecules by simple diffusion is an example. Osmosis and facilitated diffusion are also two modes of transport where we don't have to spend energy. And osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Now, facilitated diffusion is a movement of polar molecules across the membrane with the help of some carrier proteins. So these carrier proteins will facilitate the transport. Next, we are going to learn about active transport. Active transport is taking place against the concentration gradient. So we have to spend energy. So when the molecules need to be transported from lower concentration to a higher concentration, we have to spend energy. Only with the expenditure of energy, this transport can be carried out. Example, sodium potassium pump. So sodium potassium pump. So this will help in maintaining the balance of ions in our body. So sodium potassium pump. So this will help in transporting sodium and potassium ions. And that too against the concentration gradient. And here we need to spend energy. So here we have to spend energy to bring about the transport of this sodium and potassium ions. For every 2 potassium ions moving into the cell, 3 sodium ions will be pumped out. For every 2 potassium ions entering into the cell, 3 sodium ions will be released out. So that you don't have to worry how many ions are transported in and out. So this year itself, you will be learning more about sodium potassium pump under animal physiology. So once again, active transport is a movement of molecules across the membrane against the concentration gradient, that is from lower concentration to a region of higher concentration utilizing ATP molecules. A typical example for that is sodium potassium pump. And sodium potassium pump is very important in maintaining the balance of salts and ions in our body. This will help in transporting sodium and potassium ions. Before we proceed to cell wall, quickly recap what we learned. Sahan, what is the difference between active and passive transport?
Passive transport does not require any energy. It goes by the process of diffusion or osmosis. And active transport needs energy. It utilizes ATP for the transport. Example, potassium pump. And
sodium potassium pump. Okay. And we also learned about osmosis and facilitated diffusion. What is meant by facilitated diffusion, Anashwara?
The movement of polar molecules across membrane with the help of carrier
proteins. Okay, what is osmosis, Tom? What is meant by osmosis?
The movement of water molecules across the membrane from higher concentration to lower concentration by simple diffusion.
Once again, can you repeat?
The movement of water molecules across the membrane.
Across what membrane? That is important.
Across the semi-permeable membrane along the concentration gradient by simple diffusion.
Okay, so that term semi-permeable you should mention because membranes are of different types: impermeable, semi-permeable, freely permeable. So that has to be mentioned that it is a semi-permeable membrane. And now we are going to learn about cell wall. Cell wall is found in mainly in plant cells, and even bacterial cells also you can find cell wall, and the composition of cell wall can be different in different organisms. And in plant cell, you know, it is mainly made up of what, Anila? Plant cell wall is mainly made up of this. You had been learning from class 8. Which substance? This year also we learned. What makes up the cell wall of plant cells? Shabari?
Cellulose.
Yes?
Cellulose.
Cellulose. So plants are made up of a cellulosic cell wall, and it is this cell wall that gives them rigidity and mechanical support. So let us learn more about plant cell wall. Cell wall, it's non-living, it's rigid structure present exterior to the cell membrane in fungi and plants. You can find even in certain bacterial cells also. It's non-living, it's very stiff, and it is found externally, means outside the cell membrane. So in an animal cell, cell membrane is the outermost boundary. But in a plant or a fungal cell or a bacterial cell, not all bacterial cells, some of the bacterial cells, their outermost boundary is cell wall. But the composition of cell wall is different in fungi, bacteria and plant cells. Algal cell wall is made up of cellulose, galactans, mannans and minerals like calcium carbonate, whereas in other plants it is made up of cellulose, hemicelluloses, pectins and proteins. Hemicelluloses and pectins, just like cellulose, they are also carbohydrates. Hemicelluloses is a group of carbohydrates. Mannans is one example for hemicellulose. Then in algal cell wall also you can see several carbohydrates. Whether it is algal or plant cell, the main component is cellulose. So along with cellulose, certain other carbohydrates can also be seen, and in plant cells even proteins are also present. Plant cell wall can be differentiated into 3 layers: primary, secondary and a middle lamella. Primary cell wall, secondary cell wall and a middle lamella in between primary and secondary. Once again, cell wall is a non-living rigid membrane. You can find cell wall in cells of fungi, bacteria and even plants, and not even and in plant cells. And in algal cell wall, it is made up of carbohydrates like cellulose, galactans, and mannans, and minerals like calcium carbonate. And in plant cells, these are made up of cellulose, hemicelluloses, pectins, and proteins. Main component is cellulose. And in plants, the cell wall can be differentiated into 3 layers: primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, and middle lamella. In a young plant cell, in a growing plant, the cells, in such cells, the primary cell wall is capable of carrying out growth, but gradually diminishes as the plant matures and it is replaced by secondary, yes?
And the last slide.
Previous slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Three layers for a plant cell wall, primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, and middle lamella. These are the 3 layers found in plant cells, or the plant cell wall consists of 3 different layers: primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, and middle lamella. And I told you, in the case of a young plant cell, the primary cell wall can grow, whereas as it is getting matured, so as time pass by and as the plant cell matures, it will be replaced by secondary cell wall formed on the inner part of the cell. So the primary cell wall will get replaced by secondary cell wall, and the middle lamella consists of a substance known as calcium pectate, which keeps these neighboring cells together. So you know that several cells, it is not a unicellular structure, so several cells are there, and these cells are kept together with the help of middle lamella. Middle lamella is made up of calcium pectate, and this particular layer helps in holding the different, or it helps in attaching the different neighboring cells together. So primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, and middle lamella. Primary cell wall is capable of growth in the case of young plant cells, but later it will be this particular function, that is its ability to grow, will get diminished. So as age increases, or as this young cell gets matured, it will no longer, or this primary cell wall will no longer be able to grow, and it will get replaced by secondary cell wall. And middle lamella, its function is to attach or bring the different neighboring cells together. It will help in gluing or sticking or attaching the different neighboring cells together, and it is made up of calcium pectate. Then yet another structure known as plasmodesmata. Here in this figure, you can see plasmodesmata. These structures are known as plasmodesmata, and here you can see 2 adjacent cells. So cell 1 and cell 2. And you can see how this plasmodesmata is connecting the 2 cells together. So these structures, they act as channels, or they will traverse, or you can see them passing through the cell wall and interconnecting 2 different cells, so that through this plasmodesmata, exchange of materials can take place. The cytoplasm will get connected with the help of plasmodesmata. So these plasmodesmata, they'll be passing through, or they'll be cutting through the cell wall as well as the middle lamella, and they bring together the cytoplasm of 2 neighboring cells together. And you know why the neighboring cell cytoplasm should be connected together. That is for the exchange of materials between these 2 different cells. So once again, plant cell wall, or in general you can say cell wall, is a non-living rigid structure. It's a non-living rigid structure. It's a non-living rigid structure, and it has got 3, in the case of plants, it is having 3 distinct layers: primary cell wall, secondary cell wall, and middle lamella. And primary cell wall can carry out, or it is capable of growing in the case of young plant cells. But later, that property to grow will get diminished or will keep on diminishing as age increases, and later it will get replaced by secondary cell wall. And the middle lamella present between these two will help in connecting or gluing different cells together, the different neighboring cells together. It's made up of calcium pectate. And plasmodesmata are structures which will help in interconnecting the cytoplasm of two neighboring cells so as to facilitate the exchange of materials between the cytoplasm of these two cells. And you can see, as it is in the picture, they will cut through or they will traverse both cell wall and also the middle lamella so as to get the cytoplasm of two different cells connected. Okay, the function of plasmodesmata. What are plasmodesmata and what is its function? So these structures will help in interconnecting or help in connecting the cytoplasm of adjacent cells so as to facilitate the exchange of materials between them, and you can see them cutting through the cell wall and middle lamella. The functions, the different functions performed by cell wall, it gives shape and rigidity. So if you compare, even in pictures, if you have seen a plant and animal cell, so animal cell, it won't be having a proper shape, whereas in animal cells, they are having a proper shape, a definite shape is there. That is because of the presence of the rigid cell wall. It gives shape and rigidity or stiffness to the cell. And being stiff and rigid, it will protect it from mechanical damage and infection. Helps in cell-to-cell interactions. Already we mentioned how that is taking place. So the cell wall helps in the neighboring cells to interact with each other. It acts as a barrier against undesirable macromolecules. So macromolecules are larger molecules. So it will not allow the macromolecules to pass through. So you can say that it will act as a barrier, protecting the cell from undesirable macromolecules. So once again, we will see the points. It gives shape and rigidity. It provides shape and rigidity to the cell, and it protects it from mechanical damage and infection. Children, in class 8 or 9, you might have learned that a plant cell is able to resist changes in the surrounding medium better than an animal cell. So even if you keep it in a very dilute solution, you know what happens when a cell is placed in a very dilute solution. What will happen to the cell? Buddha, what will happen if a cell is placed in a very dilute medium? Huh? Don't ask me, no? Anashwara, what will happen when you place a cell in a very dilute medium? Dilute and concentrated, you know. Dilute medium means the amount of water will be more than the solutes. What will happen to the cell?
The water molecules will enter inside it.
Water molecules will enter the cell and cell will?
Swollen up.
It will get swollen up or it will swell up. The cell will get swollen up. And if a plant cell and an animal cell, both of them are placed in a dilute medium, the animal cell will be affected easier. It can burst after a particular stage, it might get burst. But plant cell can resist it a little more longer. That is because of the presence of cell wall. Being a rigid and very stiff layer, they can protect the plant cell from the changes in the surrounding medium better than that of an animal cell. Helps in cell-to-cell interaction and acts as a barrier against undesirable macromolecules. So that was about cell wall, and next class we'll be starting with the different cell organelles found in a eukaryotic cell. So quickly summarize the points that we learned about cell wall. Jyoti, what did we learn about cell wall?
Cell wall is made up of cellulose, then The primary cell wall is capable of growth, but gradually.
Tell me the basic points first. What type of layer it is? Is it living, flexible?
It is
Lakshmi?
It is non-living, rigid external structure.
It is non-living and the rigid structure found outside the plasma membrane. And then in plant cells, so generally wherever a cell wall is found, whether it is fungal, bacterial or plant cell, the main component is cellulose. Along with cellulose, other carbohydrates, and in plant cell you can even find proteins. And 3 layers. Which are the 3 layers of plant cell wall, Emilyn?
primary cell wall, middle lamina, and secondary cell wall.
Middle lamella, primary cell wall and secondary cell wall. What is the property or what is the unique feature of this primary cell wall? Annelies?
It is capable of growth.
It is capable of growing. Indefinitely? No. Annelies, can they continue to grow indefinitely? After some time, what will happen? Or this property or its ability to grow will keep on diminishing and later it will get replaced by what? Secondary cell wall. What are plasmodesmata, Devika? What are plasmodesmata?
Plasmodesmata, they help in the exchange between materials between neighboring cells, and the plasmodesmata connects the cytoplasms of the neighboring cells.
Okay, it travels or it cut through the cell wall and also middle lamella and it helps in connecting the cytoplasm of 2 neighboring cells to facilitate the exchange of materials between them. And the functions, Zahan, one function
of
cell wall.
Function, it protects the cell from external.
It provides protection. Gaya?
It gives shape and
Louder?
it gives shape and rigidity.
It gives shape and rigidity, provides protection. Then, Elaine?
Helps in cell-to-cell interaction.
Cell-to-cell interaction. One more point was there. Irene, what is the last point?
It helps the plant. It helps from entering the microparticles.
It prevents or it acts as a barrier protecting the cell from undesirable macromolecules. So we'll be continuing next period. Come back with a little more energy, children, next period. So thank you.